Assalamualaikum, we are from Group A Star would like to present about the comparison of issues between Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad, Bank Muamalat Berhad and Dubai Islamic Bank. Generally, the Islamic Bank have a duty to execute their responsibility that is relevant to and compatible with the Sharia. However, although the aims and activities of the Islamic banking system may appear to be similar, there is a difference in focus between them. Therefore, this study provides an overview pertaining to the arising issues of selected Islamic banks on the corporate and Sharia governance structures, ethical practices, and corporate social responsibilities which must be aligned with Sharia principle. For this project, we fully rely on a qualitative approach method which is based on analysis of various documents and sources that use non-numerical information rather than numerical data. For example, annual reports, websites, Malaysian Code and Corporate Governance, and articles were used to analyze the arising issues.
Now, let us look at the issues and findings. To begin with, we will start with issues under corporate governance. As stated in MCCG 2017, corporate governance is a process and structure to manage a company's business in order to improve their corporate profitability and accountability. It is also a set of control which aim to reduce the agency risk. To have a sound Islamic finance industry, a strong corporate and bank governance is required. The three key areas of accountability, transparency, and trustworthiness are emphasized in the Islamic approach of corporate governance, and the primary goal of corporate governance under the Sharia model is to protect the interests and rights of shareholders while adhering to Sharia rules. So, for the first issue, which is the board composition, specifically on the qualification of independent directors, BIMB and BMMB are required to follow code under Bank Negara Malaysia Corporate Governance, and both banks comply with it, where the current composition of the board in both BMMB and BIMB consists with majority of independent directors. While for Dubai Islamic Bank, the code issued by the State Bank of Pakistan stated that at least one-third of the board directors shall be independent directors. To specifically look at the qualification of directors, BIMB and BMMB has provided their board's background in the annual report, and as we can see, BIMB independent directors have more skills and experiences compared to BMMB. While for DIB, they did not provide those information in the annual report, thus such information are not able to be obtained. For the second issue on overgenerous of directors' remuneration, as excessive board compensation can be considered as unethical, transparency in financing and payments is needed in order to promote market discipline. All related banks were not having this kind of issue. However, we managed to compare and find the differences on how the recording was done. For BIMB and BMMB, they did the similar recording and disclosure where the figure of remunerations included the details of amount of salaries and other remunerations, meetings allowance, benefit in kinds, fees and emoluments. They also disclosed the information precisely by stating each amount received by each director as well as the amount of contributions. While for DIB, they only stated the total amount of remuneration without proper disclosure as precisely as what BIMB and BMMB has practiced. So for other issues, I will pass to the next presenter.
The issue is about the Sharia governance. Although it is quite difficult for Islamic financial institution (IFI) to fully comply with Sharia, it is doable. The risk of Sharia non-compliance may have a major implications for the continuation of IFI activities as well as the growth of Islamic financial system generally. As a result, the requirement for an effective Sharia governance system is seen as one of the most important factors encouraging the Islamic financial sector's stability. A well-functioning Islamic finance industry can only be preserved if IFI follow Sharia guidelines in their corporate governance practice. Thus, initiating a sound and robust Sharia governance system is an IFI's obligation. Many countries have built a thorough governance structure for Sharia matters in recent years in response to the demands of IFIs. Nevertheless, due to the lack of a well-conceptualized structure, these policies are mostly based on the requirements and experience of the respective countries. To ensure the transparency of Sharia governance practice, IFI shall fully disclose and publish their report to the public. However, there is still a lack of disclosure in the annual report and websites by IFI. The Sharia governance framework in these three banks is responsible for managing the Sharia non-compliant risk in the operation. The Sharia governance framework in Islamic banks for each country is following the guideline issued by the respective central bank. in Malaysia, BINB and BMMB are governed by the Bank Negara Malaysia Guidelines on Sharia Governance Framework for IFI, while for the IB, its Sharia Governance Framework was issued by the Higher Sharia Authority of the Central Bank of United Arab Emirates. BINB and BMMB have disclosure of Sharia governance in their annual reports, such as Sharia non-compliant event and income. In contrast, there is very limited information on Sharia governance in the IB annual report, as well as its website.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. Let's move on to the third issue, which is ethical issue. It can be defined that ethical banking is a system that works based on responsibility, equity, accountability, and promotion of sustainable development. It is believed that the rise of ethical banking is able to boost Islamic banking. Furthermore, all Islamic transactions are based on Sharia, Sunnah, and the Quran, which prohibit Islamic banks from investing their money in unlawful and haram activities. This requirement prevents investments from being made in illegal or harmful or haram activities, which is yet another requirement of ethical banking. And many studies have looked to Sharia-compliant finance as a solution to the financial sector's lack of ethical oversight. During the crisis period of 2007 until 2010, financial malfeasance in Dubai-based companies involved over $1 billion, of which $501 million was incurred at Dubai Islamic Bank within 1 year. This is one of the largest cases revealed to the public in 2008, and it revealed the involvement of several white-collar individuals from various positions as well as nationalities. This is not the first scandal to occur at the IB. In fact, the bank suffered financial losses due to embezzlement involving unauthorized transactions totaling $300 million between 1995 and 1998. Up to 2021, there are no ethical issues documented that is related with Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad and Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad. Bank Islam implements zero-tolerance policy towards bribery, corruption, and unethical behaviors. It has also received a lot of awards to show their ability and commitment in achieving the standard of an Islamic bank, which include the ethical practices in their organization. Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad, on the other hand, also emphasized the importance of ethical behavior of the employees, where before any new employees is hired, they will conduct a thorough background check of their previous employment record.
So the last issue arises would be in relation to corporate social responsibility, or CSR, that Islamic banks conducted. CSR is when Islamic banks put the effort to incorporate the aspect of social and environmental that engages in their business operation in line with Sharia. One major issue when adopting CSR is that they have not yet established any standardization of framework in reporting CSR. That's why most Islamic banks have different kind of approach on the CSR disclosure. The reason why is that some might be burdened due to a cost factor where they have to incorporate ways of reporting that are less costly. Thus, this issue will affect the Islamic banks as well as its stakeholders, which they will have different understanding on adopting CSR. And some Islamic banks reported less disclosure than others. Thus, those who displayed less are considered having low quality of CSR disclosure and seem insufficient. So the first one will be Bank Islam. They have disclosed it under management discussion and analysis in the annual report, which they illustrate on the programs they have established. They prioritize community welfare and empowerment, education and environment. But they did not report and divided each program into specific categories that I've mentioned. As for Bank Muamalat, they disclose their CSR programs information on the sustainability segment in its annual report by categorizing their programs in economic, environment and social. They also mention it in their official website under corporate overview. As for Dubai Islamic Bank, they do not incorporate any sustainability segment in their annual report and do not even have a separate report for their CSR information. They only mention briefly their CSR programs in its official website. This will generally create a setback to stakeholders as some needed information might not be existed or provided by the Islamic banks.
Overall, it was found that most of the Islamic banks disclose information that is in compliance with Sharia, Based on the limitation and issues found in this study, we recommend the Islamic banks to have proper and standardized reporting structures, and they also can use other forms of media such as press release, special booklets or pamphlets for detailing their information, and it is also suggested for the Islamic bank to enhance its security system to avoid unethical practices in the future. As mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 283, which means, "And if one of you deposits a thing on trust with another, let the trustee discharge his trust, and let him fear his Lord. Conceal not evidence, for whoever conceals it, his heart is tainted with sin, and God knows all that you do." So this verse mentioned that it is essential for proper reporting and disclosure so that no party involved suffers unfairness. Also, the message implicit behind these verses is that the need for transparency and disclosure in business dealings. So that's all from us. Thank you.